This is Mac OS Ken.
Point counterpoint over iPhone expectations. It's apparently not too early to look back on 2024. And so much Apple TV Plus news. It is Wednesday, the 31st of January, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Apple shares were down a little over $3.50 on Tuesday, a fall that Bloomberg puts at the feet of TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. Young MC hit medium Tuesday with a lot of negativity around iPhone. According to the analyst, his supply chain checks show Apple has reduced orders for key semiconductor components to about 200 million units, down 15% year-on-year. That's got him saying that Apple may have the most significant decline among the major global mobile phone brands in 2024. For the first half of this year, he sees iPhone 15 shipments down 15% versus iPhone 14 this time last year. For the second half of this year, he sees iPhone 16 shipments down 15% versus iPhone 15 for the same period a year earlier. These days, says the analyst, high-end smartphone buyers in China are going for foldables and phones with on-device generative AI. iPhone currently has neither of those, and he doesn't see iPhone getting either until 2025 at the earliest. Also, Huawei is coming on strong in China. It's worth pointing out, as Ed Hardy at Cult of Mac does, while notable in his field, Ming-Chi Kuo is not always right. Hardy countered particular points in the analyst's note. While the TF International analyst says Apple won't have on-device generative AI until 2025, reports have been building from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman that iOS 18 will be packed with hot, buttery AI flavor. Ming-Chi Kuo is far from the first to say that Apple has missed or is missing the boat on foldable phones. However, big as they are in the minds of some, they represent a small segment of the smartphone space. Last year, market tracker IDC guessed that by 2027, foldables might make up 3.5% of the global smartphone market. To argue the point on China, Hardy turns again to IDC. That firm said last week that iPhone was the number one smartphone in China for all of 2023, the first time iPhone has claimed the top spot for a full year in the Middle Kingdom. As for the start of Ming-Chi Kuo's note, production cuts. That is a thing that Ming-Chi Kuo and other analysts have pointed to in 2023, 2021, 2019, and 2018, all without iPhone going under. It does in fact go back further than that. I finally got smart about a year ago and bookmarked a quote from Tim Cook that you have heard me say several times over the past decade. It was actually 11 years ago this month when Apple's CEO was asked about rumored production cuts for iPhone 5. Quoting part of his response, "I would stress that even if a particular data point were factual, it would be impossible to interpret for our overall business. Yields can vary, supplier performance can vary. There's an inordinately long list of things that would make any single data point not a great proxy for what's going on." Agreeing with Hardy that we've heard the production cut story more than a couple of times is Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote on Tuesday. On alleged cuts specifically, Mr. Ives says, "Our supply chain checks continue to show iPhone units that should be slightly up in fiscal year 24, which is a stark contrast to many on the street calling for a steady unit decline over the coming year." As for other points, the phones Apple's selling are selling from the high end. ASPs are around $925 in the firm's estimation, with more consumers opting for the Pro and Pro Max. Yes, Huawei is a headwind in China, but he sees the roughly 100 million iPhones in China that are ripe for an upgrade as a tailwind, offsetting whatever hit Apple is feeling from Huawei. Come tomorrow's earnings report, Ives thinks the $68 billion iPhone revenue bogey and $23 billion services estimate for last quarter are hittable/beatable. With services revenue back to steady double-digit growth, says Ives, and iPhone units that should be in the roughly 220 million range for fiscal year 24, we believe the growth demise story of Apple being spun by bears is a dynamic we have seen constantly over the past decade, and this is just another chapter in that book. Mr. Ives has an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $250. The first public beta of iOS 17.4 is out, and something has changed. A piece from 9to5Mac says the one that's out now to the public testing program is a different build than the one Apple seeded to developers last week. Last week's build was number 21E5184I. This week's got a K at the end instead of an I. No clue why the new build was necessary, though 9to5Mac guesses Apple must have fixed some serious bug affecting folks who installed the original developer beta. As for what's truly new, features on the way include support for the Digital Markets Act changes Apple announced last week for users in the EU, support for game streaming apps, transcriptions in Apple Podcasts, new emoji, and more. All you need to be part of Apple's beta program are an Apple ID, an accompanying device, and nerves of steel. More info is available at beta.apple.com. If you are already looking back on the year that was 2024, you can listen back as well. While the first month of the year is not quite over, a piece from Mac Rumors says your Apple Music Replay 2024 playlist is now available. Just like the past few years, the piece says this playlist ranks a total of 100 songs based on how many times you have listened to them. The list will be updated weekly according to the report, with the newest order of your most listened to tracks. If you're wondering what's been rocking your world so far this year, Mac Rumors says once you have listened to enough music to generate the playlist, you'll find it at the bottom of the Listen Now tab in Apple Music on iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. And if you're wondering what's been rocking my world so far this year, I have apparently listened to nothing. If you're in the Los Angeles area and are a fan of the Apple TV Plus series The Morning Show, there's an event ahead that may be of interest. Apple Insider says the show will be screened on the opening night of this year's PaleyFest LA. Additionally, show headliners Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon will take the stage for an in-person conversation. I saw the cast of The Orville do that at PaleyFest LA a few years ago. It's pretty cool. This year's event runs from the 12th of April through the 20th at LA's Dolby Theater. More info is available at paleycenter.org. There are a couple of ways to view this next story. One, as crass and commercial, or two, as supporting some worthy causes. I guess there is a third way. 1 plus 2. Apple issued a press release late last week announcing contributions to the Sundance Institute Indigenous program and the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian. On those organizations, Apple says, with a focus on feature films and episodic work, the Sundance Institute Indigenous program offers labs, fellowships, screenings, and individual feedback sessions for storytellers from Native and Indigenous backgrounds. The National Museum of the American Indian works to educate the public about Native and Indigenous cultures at its locations in Washington, D.C. and New York City. Worthy causes, to be sure. But Killers of the Flower Moon runs all the way through this press release. and it's Oscar season, and the movie is up for several of them. In fairness, that film does what the organizations do as well, and Apple's money will hopefully go a long way for those organizations. Felt a little crass, though. The Martin Scorsese Best Picture nom seems to be crushing it since landing on Apple TV+. A piece from CultofMac says it's taken one of the top 2 spots on 2 of the most recognized streaming trackers out there. From its 12th of January premiere on the Cupertino streamer through the 24th, Real Good's list of top 10 movies on streaming had Killers of the Flower Moon at number 1. From the 15th of January through the 28th, competing streaming tracker Just Watch had the film at number 2. More award nominations for Apple TV Plus titles, this time from the NAACP. Apple issued a press release last week announcing its 6 nominations for the 55th annual NAACP Image Awards. Recognized as the nation's preeminent multicultural award show from an African-American perspective, Apple says the NAACP Image Awards celebrate the outstanding achievements and performances of people of color in the arts and those who promote social justice through their creative work. The 6 nominations include Idris Elba, Outstanding Actor in a Drama Series for Hijack, Octavia Spencer, Outstanding Actress in a Drama Series for Truth Be Told, Nicole Beharie, Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series for The Morning Show. Lessons in Chemistry claimed 2 nominations. Asia Naomi King got 1 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Television Movie, Limited Series, or Dramatic Special, and Miho Suzuki for Outstanding Makeup. And finally, C. Kim Miles, Julia Liu, and Claire Popkin took nominations for Outstanding Cinematography in a Feature Film for Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. All of those are streaming now on Apple TV+. The 55th NAACP Image Awards will be broadcast on BET on Saturday, the 16th of March. And finally today, news of awards that Apple TV Plus has actually won already. Apple TV Plus issued a press release over the weekend announcing wins at the 33rd Annual Environmental Media Association Awards. Apple says the Environmental Media Association recognizes leaders working towards a more sustainable future, as well as productions setting the standard for green practices, and films, television series, and documentaries harnessing the power of storytelling to advocate for environmental justice, climate action, and sustainability. The titles that won will not surprise you. The episode Apis mellifera from the kids series Jane took one of the awards. The other went to the Extrapolations episode Whale Fall. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.